After making the last video, we deep dived into everything out there which is about Sweet Bobby and this whole situation. We've seen podcasts, we've seen interviews, we've looked at articles, all kinds of things. So a lot of this will be Kira in her own words. A lot of this will have added, expanded information, things which are not covered in the actual Sweet Bobby show. There's added information here. Again, things that have come out from her own words. All right, guys. We've done the hard work here, so you don't have to. So with that, let's get into it. I don't know how long this is going to be because, we've got a long list of topics. There's a lot of information coming out here. Right, so I'm just going to start from the top of the list over here. And what I've got is the voices. The producer had said, wait a minute. There were other voices which were done by Simran. She did other voices, like some doctor voice and another friend's voice, etc. And they were males. So why didn't you realize that their voices were also a little bit strange, especially when this communication with friends and doctors was probably in close proximity to communication with Bobby? Why didn't you realize that this voice is a bit strange, like Bobby's? What's going on? And her response was, in the whole mess of it all, in the whole situation, I wasn't able to distinguish, or I wasn't able to, it all merged into one. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I could understand that if this was always mad and traumatic, but I'm sure that a lot of the conversations, like with the doctors and stuff, she was having fun. Some of them were like banter and stuff. And what about the times when you were good with Bobby? You and Bobby are good, right? You're hearing his voice, and then you're hearing the doctor's voice, and you're not thinking, wait a minute, they sound weird. What do you reckon?
Bobby was in hospital, and so he had this vocal cord issue, hence the squeaky, high pitch, like whispering type voice. Cool, got it. But what about the other contacts? What about the other guys that she was, building rapport with? She had this relationship with, what was their voices like? Surely they're not going to be squeaky, high pitched voices too.
That's it.
How would Simran be able to, how would she be able to fake more than one men's voice?
Without you clocking on.
Yeah. Surely they're not, because they're all the same family, so they're all going to have high squeaky voices. What is she thinking? I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, the doctors and that won't even be in the same family. So it's like, what? You're all in the same witness protection, so they've all got the same weird voice.
And for a woman, you could argue that, a girl could, fake another girl's voice. But for a girl to fake more than one man's voice, it's pretty hard, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
Without breaking the character.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How can you stay in character doing somebody else's voice and do it convincingly? You're completely convincing somebody who's much older and wiser than you, or at least should be.
They would all sound the same. They would sound similar.
Yeah, they would.
Like this man and the next man. They would sound the same.
Yeah.
And so that's a bit mind-blowing how, she didn't question that. And she didn't really explain either. She didn't really explain to the interviewer, how she thought that was okay.
Yeah. She didn't know. A lot of what Simran does a lot of what Kira does in these interviews is she doesn't give concrete, clear answers. Now, you'll see this when you look at interviews. Look at how she talks about the 9 years thing. She'll say, people talk about 9 years. And then she won't actually answer that problem. She'll just ramble out of it. Also, by the way, guys, we were able to verify the pictures that are going around about Simran. The pictures that have gone round showing Simran, we can verify. We've found a source to be able to verify that. So they are real, basically, the ones that are going round. If you know, you know. They are real, and we're going to give you the source later on as to how we can confirm the photos of Simran are correct and real. So stick around for that. Oh, and by the way, we are going to make one more video out of this, so this is not going to be the last one. There will be one more, but again, subscribe for that. It's a bit of a different topic or take on this. Don't want to say too much, just subscribe for it and you'll see. Do you want to say anything more on the voices? Because, I mean...
No, it
No?
just doesn't make sense. but
Massive hole
we'll
in the
mo-
story.
Yeah, but we'll move on because
Yeah.
there's so many, you know,
Yeah,
holes to cover.
yeah, but that is one of many just glaring holes in this. And again, don't forget, we're talking years here, guys. So how do you not clock on that these voices are the same over a course of years? I'm just going to give you the theme that it points towards for me, and we'll be picking up on this theme as we go along, and that is that not only did it appear, I'll put it gently, not only did it appear that Kira was feeding the lie, feeding the monster to keep this whole fantasy going, but it looks like she actively wanted to stay involved in there. She wanted to really stay in this fantasy world. We'll also cover in a moment why Simran, in her own words, has mentioned, not Simran, I keep saying Simran, why Kira, in her own words, still talks about Bobby like it really happened. We'll discuss that. And we'll discuss motivations behind why Simran did what she did. There is something that has come out about that. Did no one over those 9 years who's in a common circle, because Kira keeps saying this really weird thing, right? She keeps saying, me and Simran are close. Yeah, she's my cousin, she's family, she's this, she's that. And then in the same breath, she comes round and she says, no, we're not close, you don't really know me.
Mm.
And then she'll also say, oh, it's a really close-knit circle, the Kenyan Sikh community. It's all very close-knit. We're all very tight and stuff. But then she'll come around and say, oh, no, we're not actually. We're not that close-knit and tight.
Yeah,
And she keeps doing that.
yeah,
And I'm like, what are you then? You close-knit or not? But just trying to get to the point that I was trying to get to, and that is, in the course of the whole 9 years, did nobody who is in common between these two people go to like Bobby and say, Bobby, are you going out with this Kirat bird? Because someone's saying that you're going out with somebody called Kirat. And guys, if it was such a close-knit circle, close-knit community, that'd happen. Somebody would hear it. Maybe an uncle, auntie, somebody somewhere would hear it.
mm-hmm.
And it would get back to Bobby. So what's going on? What happened? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so frustrating. Because she'll say different things in like different interviews. She'll say like, "Oh, they're so close. Everyone knows each other, and my parents know their family." So then, if you know their family, how come none of your family or extended family or friends have spoken to Bobby's family in all these years?
Yeah.
And like, you know, said, "Oh, they get married, or they engaged, or they together. How is he doing?"
Yeah.
So you know of them, so you're clearly not that close.
Yeah. And like we were saying earlier, how did they not bump into each other? She bumps into him in the club
In
or
the
whatever.
club, yeah. And then never again.
Not even bumped
Or
into
the wife.
Yeah. Not bumped into him, the wife, JJ, anybody.
Yeah.
And turns out Bobby's got a sister who I think Kirat was fake talking to as well. So she knew that Bobby had a sister. Bobby's sister was apparently present at the house when Kirat came and knocked on the door. So in that meeting, Bobby's sister was also there. He's a dentist, by the way. Did you guys know that he's a dentist?
Yeah, not a cardiologist.
Yeah, not a cardiologist. So Bobby's a dentist and his wife Sanj is a pharmacist. All the extra info coming out here, guys. Hit subscribe, like and share. Right, okay. Yeah, so I do find that frustrating. That whole circle community situation, yet there's no communication in it.
Yeah, she like needs to stop saying that, oh, we're really close knit, we're really close, everyone's really close.
Yeah.
You're not really that close.
Yeah.
If you've never seen them in, 9 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they're not approachable.
Yes.
You've never visited each other.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if I made a note of this, so I'm going to have to say this now. And that is, this is 2 parts. Like, first I'm going to mention that it looks like Kirat never had friends.
Yeah.
Friends who were part of this circle. You know what I mean? Friends who were part of this community at least.
Yeah.
Or even real friends who she could discuss this with and who would say, look, love, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 9 months. Stop. Forget
Yeah.
9 years.
Or no real friends that are like
Real.
holding her accountable
Yeah.
and like shaking her, waking her up,
Yeah.
you know?
So there's that. The other thing is that Simran must have known that, like, Kira is cut off from a whole load of people. Simran must have known that Kirat's here with no contacts. She don't talk to nobody. Nobody talks to her. So she hasn't got anyone's number. So when these Facebook comes in, these Facebook requests, Simran knows that Kirat's not going to text a certain relative or a certain friend and say, "Did you just add me?" Blah blah blah, etc. Or you know, like the conversation was not going to move to any other medium apart from Facebook. And Simran seemed to not only know that, but must have been really confident in that. And it turned out to be true, because it turns out Kirat had no other contact regarding the situation with anybody else apart from these Facebook profiles.
Yeah.
I find that mental. And quickly, again, I don't know if I noted it, so I'm going to say it. Did you know that when Simran was going to Kirat's house, all that was in secret?
Yeah.
So Simran's family didn't even know that she was going to Kirat's house. Yeah, so she's just going out to see friends or something, when actually Simran's going to Kirat's house and spending time with Kirat and doing things. So Simran hid the entire thing, the entire relationship, all of this, the entire whole, like, I'm not even connected to Kirat. Kirat who?
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
Wild.
That is so weird. Like, in one interview, she was saying, "Oh, we are like, we're not first cousins. We're second cousins." I think she said second cousins. But so yeah, we're not really that close. We're not close because she's a lot younger than me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So she was a high school girl when this started. And I can't remember how old she was, but she was, you know, grown woman. And then in a different interview in the podcast, I think last night we watched, she was saying, "Yeah, so we're close." I call her my little sister.
Yeah.
She's my little sister. So my little sister did this to me. So make your mind up.
You close or not?
Are you close or are you not close?
Yeah.
You know, and if you were close, why were you hiding, like, you know, your meetups? Why was she hiding the fact that she was meeting you? She was coming round to you.
Yeah. And, like, extended family is what keeps being said. We're family, extended family, we're this, we're that. But when Kira would drop Simran back off to her house,
Yeah.
Simran would say, "Don't drop me off at the door."
Yeah.
Like, "Don't take me in," type thing.
Yeah. She'd drop her off like a few, like, round the corner.
Round the corner, drop me
few
off round the
doors
corner.
back, yeah.
Like, she clearly didn't want her family knowing that, like, she's getting out of Kirat's car. The whole Kirat was a proper secret. But I'm like, wait a minute.
Strange though at the same time. Like, what's there to hide?
I feel like Simran at one point, if all this blew up the right way somehow, somewhere, if it blew up correctly,
It's like she's ashamed. You know, like, is she ashamed to be associated with Kirat?
yeah, I think that's a fair shout. But I think that if this blew up correctly, if it blew up discreetly, I don't know, if something happened where,
Yeah, she's covering her back.
yeah, she could basically walk out there and be like, "Yeah, no, this wasn't me." But then I'm like, wait a minute, she could have done that though. She could have done that.
Yeah.
She could have gone, "No, this ain't me." So it is a bit weird. I don't know. Yeah, but she was like, "Yeah, drop me off around the corner," and it was all very deniable and strange. We may have gone over a couple of topics there by mentioning that, but I think it was important just in case it wasn't noted. But I think it was noted somewhere. I'm not sure. Right. So yeah, the circle thing is weird. I'm surprised that nobody came over. And one thing that I do want to mention here as well is, how come there was nobody in the Netflix documentary who was interviewed who came up and said, "I told her. I was telling her for the past this many years," or in 2017, I said, get rid of this guy, stop this guy, what are you doing? You're not even meeting him. How come there was nobody who was that strong and who showed that perspective?
There may well could have been,
But they might come out.
but they
like
cut
you
them out.
said.
They did
Yeah.
a lot of cutting.
Yeah.
She did mention in one of the interviews that there was a lot more people on the show. You know, the confessions, the interviews
Other
from her
people.
family.
Yeah.
I think she means her family anyway.
Yeah.
That didn't make it to the cut, so they did edit a lot out.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what she needs to do? She needs to.
And she also said that she wasn't 100% happy with the final cut of, you know, the Netflix show.
Yeah. Saying that the ending wasn't strong enough.
Yeah. She
It was
wanted
dramatic.
yeah, it was dramatic as opposed to telling the truth.
Truth. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if she could, which she probably can't, she should publish the evidence and sell it. That would be an interesting read. Speaking of an interesting read, I think that we might have a text message from Bobby, which we read. Didn't we read it earlier today? It was from a video, wasn't it? We paused it and read it. I might see, if I'm feeling generous, I might see about sticking that here somewhere. I might do, I might not. So you guys can judge in a second.
Wasn't that juicy though?
But it was nice to see Simran's writing.
Yeah.
It's not about juicy. For me, it's like, this is somebody impersonating somebody. And doing a great job. Simran's writing was impeccable, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah.
It was bulletproof.
Yeah.
It was, you know what I mean? If that's just one message, it was a long message. I mean, she can rant. She got time on her hands.
Yeah.
I mean, this is before AI.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. Away from the whole circle issue for 9 years where nobody got a message across to Bobby. Imagine this from Simran's perspective. I think that's a film just waiting to be made, isn't it? That's a film waiting to be made, whether that's Bollywood or Hollywood, M. Night Shyamalan or something. If somebody could crawl into that mind of Simran and work out how she balanced such a successful corporate career and getting through her education, high school, college, uni, whatever, however far it went, while keeping somebody so, at least one person that we know of, controlled, but there were others. I wonder what she did to the other people too. What else is out there that we don't know about? You know, I think Kirat is the worst example of what's happened.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, others, isn't it? What do you think of it? I mean, imagining it from Simran's perspective. Anything you want to add or anything to that?
Imagine if she was like innocent. Not innocent, but like imagine if she was like her story was, it was just a little prank, a little, you know, just a little fun, but she couldn't control herself, and then it just got bigger and bigger, and the story just rolled into this big, massive, 10-year long
That would
prank.
actually be really funny, actually. I know it's all very sad and tragic and stuff,
But she tried to cut the relationship off many times,
Yeah.
and in the end, it was actually me keeping her alive
and that perspective.
because she was getting depressed and she was losing weight,
Oh God.
you know.
Do you know what I think would be good? If she just kept finding it funny at the end. If she was just laughing her way through the whole thing, like, I thought you knew. I thought you knew it was me. You didn't know it was me. I was convinced. Doesn't it sound like me? Hey, listen, I'll do the voice now. I
But
want to hear the voice. Kirat, do the voice. I want to hear the voice. Kirat, you've heard the voice. Do the voice. Go on.
But she also mentions somewhere that she's been receiving these voice messages. Do you remember? She's been receiving voice messages. This is since the exposing of Bobby and
Oh,
stuff.
wait a minute. I think this was ringing a bell.
Yeah, she has told, I don't know which interview or podcast it was now, but she did say that she's got voice messages from a number, and in the background there's these like
It's the
Bollywood,
music.
like Indian music
Yeah.
in the background,
Yeah.
and it's the same music
Yeah.
that was in
The doc in the witness protection
in the calls from
in
Bobby.
them calls, yeah.
And
Like-
they are and there's no talking, it's just like grunting noises or some. Yeah, there's
You know
no
what?
talking.
When I heard that, it didn't
And
bother
that's
me
just
really. But now I'm hearing it again,
creepy.
it's kind of creeping me out.
It's creepy. Like, I've got goosebumps.
Yeah,
now.
like it's creepy hearing that right
like
now.
imagine just getting those voice calls from like an anonymous number, unknown number, sending you
Especially
those.
after you've been through that.
Yeah, so that's what she says, and she's implying, isn't she, that
And it's
Simran's still
Simran's still doing it.
doing it to her, like taunting her or something.
God, that's creepy, that, isn't it?
But we don't know, do we? We don't know
don't
for
know.
a fact. We can't prove that. So
Next, moving on from Simran's perspective and that. This is a detail which I forgot about, guys, and I think that you guys will have too, right? Don't forget, Kirat's, was it her friend or cousin?
cousin,
Cousin,
her
yeah?
younger cousin.
Younger cousin, right? Kirat's younger cousin, who we see in the documentary, who was like, who appears and she was having fun with Kirat and she was a bit younger and stuff, and she even sent some voice messages to Bobby, like, like a bit of a giggle type thing. She got chatting to one of the doctors who was Simran, and she gave medical info and discussed medical things with
About their grandma.
no,
About herself.
about herself.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, she did. She basically gave her own medical stuff to Dr. Simran.
Okay.
I find that like crazy. Like I forgot about that detail. I was like, oh my god. I mean, it's tight and stuff. It's tight. All right, been tricked in that. All right, but just like we're getting past it, guys. We're getting through this together. I was thinking of this like us viewers have been thrown into this, like the stages of like, what is it? The stages of like, I don't know what they are. Stages of something where it's like denial, acceptance.
Grief.
Yeah, I think it's grief, but I think it could be something else. But it probably is grief, yeah. But yeah, denial, acceptance, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what the rest of them are. But we're all in denial. We're all in denial right now. Soon we'll be in acceptance, like, okay, this is the world we're living in, where somebody can get duped for 9 years and etc. But right now everyone's in denial, like, what? You knew. You were not in denial. You knew what was going on. Come on.
Yeah.
You're complicit. Again,
Everyone's
I'm not
just
saying that's
trying
me, that's
to
everyone, that's comment.
understand, aren't they? We're just trying to understand it.
Do you know what it is?
That's why we're analysing it, because we can't wrap our heads around it.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't...
It's not that we don't believe her, Kirat.
We'll go into reasons why it is believable, like how she pulls. Kirat's pulling technique, guys, is unusual, and it kind of fits the narrative. We're going to cover that. But yeah, I mean, the good thing that I want to mention is that Kirat's doing well. All right, she's having a laugh. She's strong. She's all right. I'm sure Netflix is going to give her some money from this, hopefully. And so are all the podcast people and that who are getting her on. All right, so Kirat is strong and doing well. That is the main thing. Okay. Now, how we discuss this and process this is going to get awareness out there. And again, no victim blaming. It's not that kind of thing. We're just trying to understand. And this is a bit mad. 9 years. Right. Okay. So yeah, I found that wild. I forgot about the cousin who gave info to like fake Simran doctor. I was like, isn't that a victim? That's a victim, innit? That is a victim. That is definitely a victim. That's like social engineering. She thinks she's talking to a real doctor, giving out her own private medical stuff. That's a victim. It's quite vulnerable information given out there.
It's a bit... No, I don't... I mean... You don't... that she was just... if she did tell, her own medical stuff to a random doctor that she doesn't know in New York, then that's on her, really. I mean, that's a bit silly, really. Like...
She's young, isn't it?
She's a stranger. She's talking to a stranger. Like, you don't go to a random stranger doctor on the street and say, can you help me with this? That's not really normal.
Yeah.
And the doctor would also say, go to GP.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean,
So,
lesson learned from that, guys, try and look for credentials, I suppose. Go to a real doctor.
no, I think she was just having a laugh. No.
No. The way they put it in the documentary was like, I got done over. She did. Because they mentioned that when it came out. And it's like, we found out that it was Simran. And she was like, oh my God, it was Simran. And I gave her medical info. Yeah. That's how it was put in the documentary. Yeah, I know. A bit wild. But yeah, I kind of forgot about that. But I was remembered because I showed the documentary to somebody and watched it again in that sense. Right, okay. So this I find interesting. Okay, the perspective and how this is being received by people. It's Simran isn't really being looked at as a bad guy in this. It's more a case of how could you let this happen to yourself? Okay. And then this is where it says tie it in with her pulling style. We're going to discuss that in a sec. So that's what I find interesting. A lot of people are not really looking at this and seeing, Simran, you're a monster. Okay, people are saying that. Yeah, people are saying, Simran, you're a monster, you're right. Mm-hmm. But more people are saying, how could you let this happen to yourself?
Yeah.
9 years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that perspective and the way it's being framed? It's an unusual one, isn't it? Because let's put it another way. Baby reindeer, okay? Baby reindeer. We looked at Martha like, oh my God, Martha is... There's something going on there. Let's get some help for Martha. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so Martha was the unfortunate monster in that. Yeah. Like, I think she needs help. It's not really her fault. All right. So that's how I see it. Okay. So she's the unfortunate monster. She's not telling the story. The story's being told by the baby reindeer guy, Richard Gadd. He's telling the story, right? So he's basically telling on Martha. And so we're like, okay, we get it. You're telling the story. We see you in a good light. We see Martha in a bad light. With this one, it seems very blurred. It's not very clear. It's like, okay, we know that Simran's a monster, but we're still looking at you.
Yeah. Because how did you let that happen?
Yeah.
Because of the duration of it. Because it's 9 years. That's the bit where people can't understand.
Yeah. It all comes back to 9 years.
Yeah. People keep saying 9 years.
9 years though.
But then she keeps arguing like it was only 3 years of, actual relationship with Bobby. It was the last 3 years. It was 3 years, right?
I think so.
Last few years then, let's say.
But like how I see it.
But still, like, why were you so invested to begin with?
Yeah.
He was a married man at the beginning and you were in a relationship. I know it was on and off. But still, why were you so invested? Like, she cried when he got shot. Like, I would never cry over somebody getting shot when I'd never met them. I don't know them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've exchanged messages, okay, but you've never met them and you're not really that close.
Yeah.
You were not dating.
Yeah.
And really, you shouldn't have been falling in love with him at that point.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? That's strange. That's a strange behaviour.
It is. It's really strange. And to add on to that, how I see it is, okay then, it wasn't romantic until the last few years. But was that by your doing? Or was that by Bobby's doing? If you had it your way, would you have rather it have been a romantic thing from day one? When would you have preferred this to be a romantic thing? Don't forget, very early on, you saw him as successful, blah, blah, like all successful, ticked a lot of boxes. Even in the club, you were like, oh, he stood out, this great, big, handsome man, So it's like, was this really friendship or were you attracted? Because I know what we were all thinking here. It looks like it's quite transparent. There was some definite attraction here.
Early on.
Yeah. Early on, yeah. You knew of this guy early on. Do you think he knew of you?
No.
To what degree did you know of you? You even knew of his little brother and stuff. So it's like, you know, it's a case of, yeah, okay, so it was all this time, but it wasn't romantic. But if he had said, let's make this romantic, would Kira have rejected him? I don't think she'd have rejected him. She'd have gone yes straight away, just like she was basically saying yes when it happened. She says, I said yes because I thought he was going to die. So I thought he was going to die in a few months. So I was like, I'll make his last few months nice for him. I get it. You feel sorry for somebody in that situation. You know, you want to do things their way. I get it.
Yeah, she mentions a lot of respect. Respect is like a big thing for her. She mentions respect a lot in these interviews and podcasts, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Like, I did it out of respect.
Yeah.
Family, friend, we know each other. Our family are close. We have a connection. I did it for respect. I wanted to keep him happy. I wanted to motivate him the last few months of his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he wasn't going to live like past the next few weeks. I wanted him to be happy. So I played along with it.
Let me just tie this up and I'm going to come back to that point. But yeah, this is the thing. Now, apparently what actually happened then was, of course, he didn't die. Yeah. And then she goes, by this point, we've built a bond. So he didn't die. We've bonded now. We've just been through this really tough time together where he almost died. And now we're even stronger. I'm like, huh? What's going on? There's so many like mountains and issues here. And it's like, I'd be like, look, okay, you didn't die. Hope you're feeling healthy. Here's a dating site. Or here's a chat site. You know, go and like get talking to people then. Mm-hmm. See you next time. Do you know what I mean? But instead she was like, no, now we're stronger. But it's like, it kind of makes sense in a weird way, doesn't it? Mm. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was going to get rid of him, but now we've been through it together. And suddenly...
And also, like, don't forget, he was still married at this point, at the beginning of this accident, the shooting thing, and going into hospital. He was still married. It was during that time he was in hospital where she got told, like, oh, the wife's leaving him, basically. The wife can't manage this anymore, so they're going to go for a divorce. But, like... I forgot what was the point I was going to make.
It'll come back to you. When it does, interrupt me. Just shout me when it comes back to you. Because I'm just going to tie you up.
Yeah, my point was...
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, so did she not think for a second why he would be messaging her when he's got a wife?
Yeah. And
he would not be confiding in you.
Yeah. It's so strange.
Going to you for comfort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got no family. Like, no wife,
in a
no
big community
brother.
Like this.
Well, the brother is supposed to be dead at this point. I think his brother's
yeah.
supposed to be dead, but he's not really in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're like a nobody, but she thinks that he was going to go to her for comfort.
Yeah.
She's that important in his life.
Yeah. We should cover that 1 second about JJ passing away. Maybe not that. Yeah. No, this is it. It's just strange. It doesn't work. There are holes everywhere. Now, I'm just going to talk about the respect thing, okay? Mm-hmm. She does mention respect a lot. Out of respect, I replied. Out of respect, family thing, and we're related, and all of this, and community. So I replied. What she means is pleasantries. Mm-hmm. It was out of like pleasantries, and not to look a certain way. Like someone says Merry Christmas to you or whatever, Happy New Year, you know what I'm saying? And then you just don't reply to it. You kind of look like the knob, right? Mm-hmm. And so her argument is, I just didn't want to look like the knob. I just didn't want to look like, hard-faced idiot. But it's like, no, you went too far. There's a limit. And the limit is not after 15 years of a weird online relationship. You know what I mean? The limit is like 3 weeks in, like, okay, stop texting me. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the respect, the weird respect thing. It's like, she's putting it down as respect and stuff, but it's like, no, that's not what you mean.
Yeah. She mentions the respect thing when, at the beginning, when she was messaging JJ. So when JJ Facebooked, added her as a friend,
Yeah.
so she, she accepted it,
Yeah.
accepted the friend request out of respect. Then then messages her for advice, apparently.
Advice on how to win back Simran.
Yeah.
That is mental. What a weird angle.
Yeah.
What a weird angle.
So then well, obviously it's Simran. So she then replies back to him, and they've got messages back and forth, and then then Simran messages or calls her Kira and thanks her for being like a good like big sister role, advising, helping JJ, and they really appreciate it, blah blah blah. So that's how it started. So like she's like, so now like she's sweetened her up a little bit. So Kira's like, oh yeah, I'm the big sister now. Like I can give
Yeah.
advice. And she probably thinks she's gotten a bit closer with Simrat at this point. Do you know what I mean? So like the trust is there. But at what point do you stop messaging JJ? Do you know what I mean? Like JJ surely is her cousin Simrat's age, so surely you wouldn't be messaging each other a lot, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a handful max.
Yeah.
That's it. You know?
Yeah. And then see you later.
See you later.
Yeah.
Like respect, done, finish.
Yeah.
My job is done here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be messaging someone like half my age for that long. And then with Bobby, he was married. Like, again, is it out of respect? Is it actually respectful? Messaging, contacting a married man?
And it, do you know what I mean? And like not just
your
really,
lines are blurred.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I mean, I know how we're all seeing it. It wasn't just messaging. It was like phoning after him, innit? Like fancying him and messaging him. We're going to talk about her pulling style. I've not covered that yet, and I've made a note about JJ. JJ's passing and catfishing. I've got to cover that. It's probably my notes further down, but I want to make sure I cover it because otherwise we won't, just in case. Got to play it safe. Right. Pulling style. Have you finished that point? Should I add? Are you done? Okay, we can move on. We're good enough. Right, so again, it is interesting how Simran's not looked at as the bad guy. Simran's kind of she's looked at as a monster, kind of, but it's all turning back to Simran and how has it taken you 9 years. Now, here is how this could take 9 years. Put your seatbelts on. Okay. Kirat's pulling style is probably the most unusual pulling style I've ever heard of in my entire life. And now what I mean by pulling style is how to attract a partner, how to woo them and eventually make somebody your life partner. Now, welcome to Kirat's school of how to do it. Step 1, befriend them. Step 2, stay their friend for bloody ages, invest into that person like they're your boyfriend. And who knows, maybe eventually they'll say to you, come on, let's you and me tie the knot. Maybe they won't, maybe they will, but you're going to stay as their friend for as long as you basically fancy them or hope for some kind of union between yourselves. I find that mental and exhausting. So you've got to put it this way, guys, right? Now, how do I know this? Let me just go up to how do I know this first, and I'll come back. I'll circle back to this, right? So, how do I know that this is her pulling style? Was it an article or was it a podcast? I can't remember.
No, it was an interview.
Okay. She'd mentioned that, interviewer said, right, are you getting yourself back out there? Are you enjoying dating? How are you doing? Are you enjoying, get yourself back out there and stuff? And she went down the response of, dating's new to me. I don't ever really do that. I don't ever really date. What I do is I go out there and I make friends and then go from there. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you friend zoning yourself? Like, don't you get how horrific a friend zone can be?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And she was firmly in that friend zone, like strong in that friend zone. She was so deep in that friend zone and staying there that about 2 weeks before fake Bobby had said that he loves her or that we should be a couple or something, about 2 weeks prior, she was up for some kind of an award, right? Which people had to like vote for. And Bobby had said, vote for my sister, Kirat, in this upcoming vote, blah, 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 blah. So she was like sister brother thing. And this is 2 weeks before him professing his love to her. And then she said yes to her brother, to a guy calling her brother. She said yes. It's just, I find it mental. Now, so that's some information as how we know and what happened. Now that's in her own words, right? Let's circle back to where we were. Why is it exhausting? So what she does is she makes a lot of guy friends, right? I'm pretty sure she's that way orientated. So she makes a lot of guy friends. And the energy that she was giving to Bobby is basically what she's going to give to the other guys too, because these are her potentials. She doesn't see him as friends. She sees these as like potential husbands. So, got to be there at every beck and call, every phone call, every text. Got to watch whatever they're watching on Netflix, you know. Got to wear whatever they like. Like, she was going to them extents. If she was sleeping in bed with the phone call on to Bobby, who she's never met, can you imagine what she's doing for like friends, suitors who she has met? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People who she's seen around, she's like, oh, him maybe. And so she's like give all that energy to someone. I'm like, no, that's not what you do. You find somebody you like, you basically make it clear, don't be wasting time, and then it's a yes or a no, you move on.
Yeah, she's a pleaser.
Yeah, big time.
She's a pleaser.
Big time. And like to her own detriment,
Yeah.
massively.
Yeah.
That's how, do you know what? So this ties in with 2 points. So one, because it's friendship, right, it can go on for a long period. Another thing is, because it's friendship, it may well have been PG. And that's the PG argument, because she's actually really confident that she did no adult conversation. She's quite confident about that. And so it's like, there actually is grounds for that under the friendship side of things. You know what I mean? If you're keeping it friendly, there's grounds for it. But I mean, come on guys, we're all adults here. 9 years. Are we being realistic? 9 years. I suppose that's still...
Her reaction on the Netflix show seems a bit, though, looks a bit sus.
Yeah, it looks a bit sus. But she still comes... In the podcast where she talks about that,
yeah,
she comes across very confident. She's like, they got nothing on me. She got nothing on me because we never did that. Because we were brother and sister. And I'm like, that's kind of valid. That could work. But I'm like, 9 years though. I mean, but you kind of look at it like,
No, but they were romantically involved, weren't they? Or she thought.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
9
who years.
Knows?
Okay, I'm going to talk about a bit of JJ's passing. I'm not sure I have much to say on that, but what I've got more to say on is more JJ being catfished, because I think that's not really been talked about too much.
Mm-hmm.
So Simran started by catfishing her school friends, and that was more like about travel and stuff and making herself look good, getting likes. That was what she did. Next, she catfished JJ, who she actually managed to like get with in the end, right? They became girlfriend and boyfriend. And how she did that was she had, I'm sure there's more to it, but at some point she had come into JJ's life as Simran's friend. So not as Simran. She had appeared as Simran's friend. And somehow Simran came into the conversation. But at one point, I don't know if him and Simran were talking at this point, if they knew of each other and stuff. But Simran's friend appeared and said, "Oh, Simran's in hospital. She's about to die. She's really unwell." Basically, all of the same information that was used on the Bobby story was first rehearsed as Simran. So it was Simran's friend saying Simran is this, ill and blah blah, and in hospital and not doing well and needs help. Okay. And somehow from there, JJ got feelings and helped out and jumped in. And somehow there they got into a relationship. So that's basically how that happened. And because of that, profiles had been made. And I'm pretty sure they're like the doctors and stuff, but I'm not entirely sure exactly which ones or who. But Simran had made profiles at that point, which were ready-made and available and were moved on to Kirat. So it's not as if she made a load of profiles for Kirat. She definitely did make a load, but a bunch of them
Reused.
were reused, yeah, just moved across. So they already had histories, already had work on them done.
Yeah, she reused the same profiles on Facebook to fraud Kira.
Yeah.
Same network of people.
Next point over here is crying about somebody you never met is like crying, or it's like me crying over JFK assassination. Don't make no sense, you know what I mean? We've covered that in it, so we'll just go straight past.
Done that one as well.
Yeah, messaging JJ, messaging a married man. We've covered that. Never dug around for fishiness. Now, I find that interesting. Now, I think there's a note on this further down. So basically what I'm saying here is, why did she never dig around? It's 9 years. Why did she never investigate on like Facebook or, I don't know, Instagram or something else, right? Now, what's interesting is this comes into a point that I'm going to make coming up, right? She did. But it was so badly executed that it blows my mind. Like, I'll give you, well, there's 2 examples, but I'll give you both, right? So Simran mentions he's in a hospital in America and he's in witness protection. And then Simran gets into the computer and she's Googling like hospitals in America, West Coast. And she's trying to work out which one it is. Oh, it's this one. This is the one, isn't it? With that building and blah, blah, blah. Right. And so she's basically educating Simran. She's telling Simran about hospitals in America. Right. And Simran's there going, no, I can't say anything. I can't tell you. Right, I can't tell you. Okay. But that's her doing her homework. And then second time round, this is what blows my mind, right? And this next point that I'm going to make appears basically twice in the story that we've found. Now, here's what she did. She does loads of research on witness protection, right? And so she's finding people who work in witness protection in America. And so she gets loads of these big names. And the reason she's doing this is because she's dissatisfied with the work that witness protection are doing. Okay. She's like, look, I'm not having this. You guys aren't doing a good enough job. Transfer him to England. That's what I want. I want him under witness protection in England, sorted out, or at least medical work or whatever in England. Get him back over here to where his loved ones are. Okay. And so she is going after witness protection. That's the plan here, right? And she's there and she's researching and all this, right? She gets loads of these big names. And she gets these big names, let's say Jim Jimson, Ben Smith, Gerard Butler, right? She gets these names and she goes, hey, you, witness protection, I'm about to complain about you guys because I want this guy transferred to England. I'm going to speak to Gerard Butler and Jim Jimson. And was it Ben Smith? I forgot. So I'm going to go and speak to these people. Okay. Now, then, witness protection say to her, well, this is all Simran. Witness protection say to her, you can't do that because you're not even supposed to know that he's in witness protection. If you complain, then it gets out that you know he's in witness protection. You've ruined the whole thing. You can't do that. And Simran goes, oh, all right, fine. I'll just go back to bed then. But what she's done is, she's done loads of real research and given that information to Simran. A few days later, a week or two later, whatever, Simran starts mentioning those names back to Kirat. Like, oh, by the way, we've just to let you know, we've ran all this across Gerard Butler and Jim Jimson, and they've said we're doing a great job. In fact, they've said that we should carry on doing what we're doing and keep him here. So the information she has fed to Simran is then fed back to her, and she still doesn't see the lie. I'd be like, huh? Like, she wasn't suspicious at all. The same thing happened with the medical thing, because she was like, can't you try putting him on trials? Put him on trials and stuff. That might help. I don't know how this stuff works. I don't know if that helps or not. And then they were like, no. And then his health gets really bad. Somehow, at some point, it gets better. And she's like, how's it gotten better? And Simran responds, oh, we put him on a trial. Multiple times here, the information you're feeding in then comes back to you, and you're not suspicious.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. I find it stunning. Like, it's too much to, you know. Right. Okay. So that was about not digging around for fishiness. So apparently she did. One more thing is that she justifies people having multiple profiles, because we're all thinking it, aren't we? So in her own words, coming up for you guys, we're all thinking it. We're all thinking, listen, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to Google Bobby Jandu, or Facebook Bobby Jandu, or Instagram that name, and we're going to find another profile, aren't we? We're going to find his real profile. Yeah? You ready for Kirat's response? Which maybe is arguable. She says, it was normal for people to have multiple profiles because I had a business one and a personal one. I had a private one, whatever, blah, blah, right?
Mm-hmm. But not everyone.
Definitely not everyone.
It wasn't.
Definitely not everyone.
It wasn't that common.
Yeah.
Most people, I would say, doesn't have two profiles.
That's right. And if they do, on the off chance if they do, right?
Yeah.
Your nearest and dearest are in both. I think. I think your nearest and dearest are in both. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, look, if we're getting so entwined, add me to the other profile. Add me to the other one. Why am I not in the other profile? What's going on? That's the true profile logic. Pretty wild. Now, Kirat says that there were other relatives who were also following the fake profiles, and then they thought they were the real ones. And they have like come out to Kirat and said, oh my God, I didn't know that was a catfish. But it's like, yeah, but they got off scot-free. It's not as if they were like staying up all night on Skype. It's not, the two things are not the same. Next thing, one of her colleagues came out and mentioned that once they were supposed to go to a Hindu, but instead of going to that Hindu, Simran said to her colleagues, "Oh, I can't join. I'm going to be on meeting calls overnight to America." And what I find interesting there is, well, of course, we know that those meeting calls on Skype were to Kirat, so we know that. But what I find interesting is colleagues, in my opinion, would get sold by that. They'd be like, oh my God, oh wow, look, meeting calls overnight to America.
It wasn't to colleagues, was it?
Who was she going out with?
Well, it was a hen do. Like friends hen do, wasn't it?
I
And then on the night, on like one of the nights of the hen do, probably the night, I don't know if it was last night or what, she couldn't make it. It sounded like a more of an important night, but she couldn't make it because she had to do these calls to America, apparently. Which, they saying that it's to, bombard Kirat with messages and calls and whatever.
All right, okay. I thought they were colleagues, and I feel like to a Hindu, I reckon colleagues may well be. There's a good chance of colleagues being at a Hindu. Yeah. But anyway, what I was going to go down the road of is colleagues would be impressed by that, and I feel like partly, somehow, somewhere, this catfishing, I feel like somehow, somewhere, ties in with her getting a VP role. But she was a head girl at the school as well, so on a good trajectory, surely very intelligent. But yeah. So I found that interesting. Yeah, telling colleagues that she's on international Skype calls, meetings, framing them as meetings to other people, framing them as some kind of positive, is interesting. Right. So told Kira that. Oh yeah. All right. So now we're getting on to what may well be the justification, the reasoning as to why Simran did it. Okay. This, in fact, is like the only breadcrumb we've got as to why Simran did it. Okay. It's the only one we've got, only one that we're basically going to get. Okay. Unless somehow, somewhere, Kirat drops a nugget and tells us in conversation, somehow, somewhere, why this happened. But this is the best thing that we have. So, Simran, in her initial apology, which was a crap apology, which was written to Kirat, very badly written, very vague. The one nugget which she had mentioned, the one bit of gold in there is, we were both in a dark place, and this gave us what we needed. We were both in a dark place, and this gave us what we needed. Like, there was comfort found in this, which we both needed as we were in a dark place. I mean, let's give Kirat a break here for a second. That's Simran admitting to being in a dark place. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And looking to this for escape. You know? Someone to tell her that she's loved. Don't know what the deal is. Don't know if it's just a BS justification. But that's what she said. Was she in a dark place? I think she probably was in a dark place.
Dark place for 9 years.
Well, yeah, that's BS, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But how I see it is like, well, you're in a dark place somehow because what you're doing is dark.
Mm-hmm.
So she did do something dark for 9 years. It's evil for 9 years. But yeah, that's what she said. And that's about as close as we're going to get to a reasoning as to why she did it. Waiting for more info on that. I'm not going to hold our breath. Yeah. So Simran admits she was in a dark place and needed this as company from Kirat. And Kirat's response to that was, I didn't need this at all. I wasn't in a dark place. I didn't need any of this. That was her response.
Arguable, because she was on and off relationshiping with, this guy before Bobby, weren't she? So maybe Simran did see her as this bit of a red flag, really.
Yeah.
You're in a toxic relationship. You're not, getting out of easily. So, she did see her older cousin as weak, vulnerable, gullible, naive, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the courts, apparently the courts also said that this did benefit both of you. The court said this did benefit. This is why there's been such weak action taken by the judicial system, really, is because it's as if they're also saying, look, you were involved in this for 9 years. Nobody like grabbed your hands and made you text and made you do Skype calls, right?
Yeah.
You were in a safe place. You're in your family's house, right? You're surrounded by loved ones, yeah? And basically what they're saying is, this was something which you needed. It's either this or you have to face the facts of your life. And the facts of her life they were posing as a very lonely life. That's basically the road that the court went down. That it's either you go along with this, which you did for 9 years, or you look and face your actual life, which is not looking too happy, if you know what I mean. And it's a bit mad to hear that from the court, really, isn't it? Can you imagine? Imagine hearing that from the court. That'd be like, that'd hurt. I'm glad Kira is getting past this and staying active and getting through it, you know. But yeah, that is wild.
On podcasts and interviews, she's made it clear that she doesn't want people to think that she's gullible. She keeps, repeating, I am not gullible. And she's very defensive. And when the interviewer asks her, how did it happen? How? She basically doesn't want to take any responsibility. She doesn't feel like she has a role in, accountability at all. And I think that is another reason why viewers find it hard. Like, it's hard to watch. It's a hard watch. It's a hard watch anyway, but it's also hard watching her in these interviews where she doesn't feel like, she could have changed some of her actions, or, she doesn't agree that, she doesn't agree with some of the viewers' perspective where, like, they find it a bit mad that she believed this for 9 years. She could have, I don't know, I just feel like she could have said, okay, I did think at I don't know, somewhere in the 5th year in, I did think, am I really talking to him? Should I at this point check the investigator with an investigator? Should I get someone to check actually where he's living, what he's doing?
Yeah.
Should I just maybe Google Bobby Jandu not Chiropodist. What was he again?
The dentist.
No, his fake job.
Oh,
cardiologist.
Yeah.
Like if I was marrying a cardiologist, I would have probably searched him on NHS by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
I would have been like, what hospital was he working at? Let me just check you. Oh, you have a nice picture on the NHS website.
Yeah.
That would be me.
Yeah. LinkedIn.
I would even be like looking at your ex-wife's profile probably too on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
I'd be searching that too. But there was none of that. She doesn't mention it anyway. I don't know whether she did it in real life, but she doesn't mention it. And it's strange. That's hard to believe that you found an investigator after 9 years right at the end, but you'd never thought to find one earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, he turned down, coming to England.
Multiple times. And then when he came, he said, I'm not settled yet.
Yeah.
That is the great reason. I love it.
As much as we say that Simran's a red flag, I'm sorry to say, but she is a red flag. She's a red flag in many areas here.
Yeah.
From the beginning, she's a bit of a red flag for me to be messaging married people, and JJ, who's not married, but it's a weird relationship there they've got, and I don't think you should be messaging him on and off. It's strange. You have to admit it's weird. And then, I don't know, maybe it all boils down to she had a bad relationship, the first one, the on and off boyfriend.
Yeah.
and from that relationship, she's a bit vulnerable.
Yeah.
She, low self-esteem, no backbone, and stuck in a rut, and that's you just cling on to the next person, even if it's an online relationship. She's just hoping for something. It's just hope. Lying to herself.
It's
So yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow when we watch her in these interviews, and when she's on these podcasts like the one we watched last night, and she doesn't. There's no accountability from her at all. Zero.
Yeah.
It's all Simran, and she keeps repeating, forget how it happened. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm like, we know it shouldn't happen. We know that. We know she's evil. Your cousin is evil. Yeah, Simran's evil. We've got that. But how did that happen? How did you let it happen?
Yeah.
She doesn't answer that.
Yeah.
She doesn't in any of them interviews. She can't answer it because how do you answer that?
Yeah. This is it. This is where she goes off topic eventually. But yeah, it's interesting because I mean she doesn't look back and say, actually looking back, I should have been a bit smarter, or looking back I should have done this. This could have easily been dealt with by just doing this.
Oh, she mentioned in that podcast last night, that 1 hour 45-minute podcast, she says, so there's that incident where she bumped into Bobby at the club.
Oh,
the real Bobby. Yeah.
I know
So
what
that's
you're
the
gonna
first
mention.
one, and he obviously doesn't recognise her because he doesn't know her. And the weirdo didn't message him the next day, even though they've been messaging each other. She doesn't bring it up that they bumped into each other at this club, which is strange.
You know what it is, that?
Right.
That is no social skills too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
That
She
is
definitely is
mad. No social skills. How do you have no social skills, work in marketing, and
A
be
DJ.
radio presenting?
Yeah.
Yet you haven't got the social skills to say, wait a minute, Bobby. Like, last night, I bumped into you.
Yeah. You would just say, "Oh, I bumped into you last night. You looked like you were having fun. Did you have a good night?"
Or even, in fact, you wouldn't even say I bumped into you last night. You'd just be like, how did last night go?
Yeah.
And to be honest, that could have probably caught out Simran. She'd gone, last night, what are you on about? I was in bed.
Yeah.
It's like, no, wait a minute, last night, wait a minute, you were in bed? Do you know what I mean?
But even if you didn't, let's say she didn't want to message him because it was an awkward interaction because he looked like he didn't know her, okay, or embarrassed to speak to her in front of his friends, whatever. For me, if I was messaging a guy on and off for a few months, I think she said 4 months by this point.
4 or 5 months.
Yeah, 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5
He's
months.
with his friends, he's having fun, and I'm with my friends, and I'm having fun too. But if I come to you and, try and have a conversation like, "Hi, it's me, we've been messaging," and you blank me,
Yeah.
I'd be like,
See you
F
later.
that.
Yeah, gone.
I am not messaging you
Yeah.
again, you rude piece of shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, they've been messaging for 5 months. And so what? Because he's wasted, he don't recognise you.
Yeah, no. That's, yeah. A red flag. But yeah, so she then, later on in that podcast, she mentions another incident where, who was it now?
Well,
An auntie.
Yeah, some relative. She keeps it vague. She wanted to avoid saying it was a she. So she's definitely keeping this one like under wraps as to who it was.
I'm sure it was a female, so I think
it was a female because she slipped up and said she, and then she was like, oh, I said she.
Yeah, so an auntie who knows
Bobby's family very well.
Yeah.
Bumps into her, and what did they do?
Do you want to say the rest? Because I've forgotten.
Okay, they bumped into each other, right? And did I make a note? Maybe when I come back to this. If we do, I'll just mention that when I come back to it
She basically says something like, "Oh, he's here. He lives somewhere."
Basically, the relative may have misspoke and said, he lives in Bristol.
Yeah.
But, of course, he lives in Brighton, right? And basically, because of that, it was kind of like lost a little bit in translation, yeah? And so Kira was thinking, maybe this relative doesn't really know much about Bobby. The credibility of that relative had dropped because of a misspeak at some point. But at one point, which Kira kind of doesn't go into too much detail about, I believe, in that.
No,
She doesn't, does she? She
No.
avoids this bit. And
She slips up, and then like when she
Covers
does,
it.
she like she keeps it really vague
Yeah.
and moves on.
yeah, she does. She does. I noticed that when one of the podcasters said, yeah, you stalked her.
Yeah.
And then she quickly moved on from that word stalk. She was like, oh my God, you just said that I stalked her. You don't say stalk.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's there, she's with this relative, and she's talking about Bobby, because she's obsessed. And that relative is there going, no, you got the wrong end of the stick. No, like, and so she's correcting Kirat. God. She's correcting
Yeah.
Kirat, right? And then they pull out their tablets. Imagine, I would
Yeah.
love to see that. I'd love to see that moment where they just both pull out their tablets and they're both like basically comparing profiles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's up. The jig's up.
Yep.
It's over. It's done.
But still,
Kirat left thinking, wait a minute. It seems like this relative knows less about the Bobby family than I. No, they know less than me. I know more than they do.
Yeah.
So this is not a credible source. I've got some magic in this conversation. Kirat's own words. You're going to love this. She says that, oh yeah, he broke up with his missus, innit? Relative goes, what? They broke up? Yeah, they broke up, innit? And the relative goes, well, could be. We haven't seen them together in a long time. So could be. And that's it. And that's enough for Kirat to go skipping and singing off into the hills. It's like, well, just because you ain't seen somebody for a few Christmases or whatever, it don't mean they're divorced.
yeah.
Don't just take one person's, cloudy opinion. She thought that they lived in Bristol. But at the same time, just again, could
I
be.
mean, how big is Brighton? They all live in Brighton, don't they?
I believe so, I think so.
It sounds like
they're
it.
not far from each other.
Yeah, the
and all
show
that.
it makes it feel like they're really close to
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah, not
like
far.
Bobby, Kirat, the
Same
cousin,
club, same club one night.
same club.
Yeah.
You know,
She didn't drive far to get to them.
I'm sure Brighton's not that big.
Yeah.
Like, how could you not bump into Bobby or the wife?
Yeah.
Like any of them.
Yeah.
The mum, the dad, and any of them.
Any of them. They're not far. How could you not hear about each other?
If you know of each other's families, like, surely the elders, the parents, the grandparents, they'd talk, wouldn't they? They'd
Yeah.
visit each other. They'd see each other at the temples.
This is what I was going to say, right, when we were talking about this a little bit earlier. The whole thing about Simran being dropped off down the road, yeah? If one of my family friends, not even close, whatever, was coming over to my house, right, and we're chilling and family knows about it, yeah, whatever we're doing, right, building a computer, playing games, I don't care. Eventually, if this is a consistent thing, eventually it's going to get to to that person's parents easy. Either my parents are going to ring them just for a chat. Yeah, how you doing? My dad will always ask, oh, how's your dad doing? How's your mum doing?
Yeah.
They'll always be asking. As soon as anybody mutual comes into communication with my mum or dad, they're going to mention you because you what they got in common.
Yeah.
You are the conversation topic. They're going to mention you and, oh yeah, I came over to the house and blah, 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 blah. It's proper natural. So how did
Yeah.
it not happen?
Yeah. Brown people are connected. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you're like you're in the same area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same circles.
You're gonna talk.
It's going to get back.
So how it hasn't got back, how
Yeah.
they've not bumped into each other,
Yeah.
is wild.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah. It is wild. It is really, really strange. Okay. So yeah, she's not accountable and that's strange. That is really strange. How she doesn't look back on things and say, I should have done that differently. I could have done that differently. We would find that more refreshing, I would.
it would be, it would be good to see her reflect and say, I should have questioned that. I should have knew that was Simran,
Yeah.
like at this point, I should have guessed
Yeah.
this is a bit funny.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, when Simran brought the t-shirt back from New York and she was sat there on her phone on on her watch,
On her watch.
and and she was messaging basically Kira. Like where where is your mind at? Like, it makes me feel like she's one of those people that, like when you have a coffee with
Yeah.
her, she's sat there, she's physically there, but her mind is not really there.
Yeah.
Like she's in her own bubble and
Yeah.
she's a bit,
Yeah.
she doesn't really pay attention to any detail. She doesn't, do you know what I mean? She's one of
Yeah.
those that, like, if someone walks in that she knows, she doesn't see him.
Yeah.
She's oblivious to a lot of these, like, things.
Yeah. Very much in a bubble. Very much. It's crazy that she could actually look back and she was like, yeah, I saw that she was sending messages from her watch. I want more of them. That's what we're asking for. We want more of those moments where you kind of should have worked this out. I feel like people would side with Kirat more if we had more of those.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
we'd be
definitely.
like, okay, so at least now you can see, Kirat,
How she deceived you.
or what we would have seen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
now you're looking back.
We get it now, we get it, but
show us them times, because you can see it now. Hindsight is 2020. You look back, it's all clear. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. It's like she's exposing Simran, but she's not really.
She's exposing herself.
She's hiding a lot more.
Oh yeah, yeah. She's hiding a lot, and she's exposing herself. That's the whole issue here. That's how it's being looked at. You're not exposing this person who's come and done this to you. You're exposing.
It's making you look bad. Unfortunately, the show.
Which is not right. It's not right.
Podcast.
That's not right. But it's what's happening.
Yeah,
it is the truth. I mean, the comments are mad over this. Yeah, so that's wild. Let me just go back down the list as to where we're up to. We're up the list. Okay.
Culture.
Well, next I've got is catfishing school friends, but I feel like there's not much more detail on that, so I'm going to skip more detail on catfishing school friends. I'm not going to go into more detail on that, guys. Just, she catfished her school friends first. That was the first place that we have a record of, and then it went to JJ, and then it went to
Kirat.
Kimrat, isn't it? It's so easy to say Kimrat. Why Kimrat? Simran.
Kimrat, Kimran,
Kirat.
Simran, Simran.
I know.
Oh my god.
I know. Kirat mentions the social pressures on being like a goody two-shoes. One who, like, take care of family first, very family orientated, community orientated, go to work, come home, all very goody two-shoes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically, like, it's a cultural pressure almost to be this, like, goody two-shoes at all times, yeah? To cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and just be this example, which is just, like, hitting every nail on the head and just being so pure and innocent and really, in that sense, very immature, right? Being very, I'm really a teenager at heart. Now, in fact, she says it in her own language, you're a little girl until you're married. That's one thing that she said. And that's something that had been mentioned to her a lot.
Yeah.
Relative to saying that to her in the whole marriage pressure. She was almost the embodiment of that statement, though. Like, behaving like a little girl until she's married. I can see her at home giggling over text messages from Bobby. Right. The issue with all of that, I mean, like we were saying, what she does is she goes to work, from there goes to the DJ job, from there goes home, and just repeats that circle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
She lives with the parents. you know?
Yeah. It's very
Just,
cotton wool lifestyle. Go on.
yeah, very like protected
Very protected.
environment. And it just, yeah. And then like the pressures from parents and family and extended family about getting married, you're getting old. It's all these pressures that she must have had.
Yeah.
Like, and then don't forget she had this like toxic relationship for what, 10 years on and off.
Longer, I think.
Imagine all this, all these factors. Like,
Yeah. Like, at what point is she becoming streetwise? At what point is she having her own time to develop as an adult? She's a colleague in two places, and then she's a daughter when she's at home. When is she the streetwise, the strong, the cynical, the curious adult?
yeah,
The one who's looking under the surface and not just believing things at surface level. The
yeah.
one who can say, I don't want to reply to that message. I don't want to talk to this person. I want to do what I want for the next 3 hours. Me time, self care.
Like, I'm sure she's got a good job. She's got jobs. So she's clearly a smart, she's intelligent lady. And we're not saying that she's dumb or anything, but it's just like she's got these values in her head that play such a big role in her life. These respects, that she gives people, and these she has so many expectations for herself that she has to, when she has to please her parents. This is the right thing to do, religiously we have to do this, temple funerals, we attend them. And what I mean, like she's doing so much of this that she is actually lacking on building herself. And that's, I think, where she's fallen.
Yeah. And there's another contradiction in there, unfortunately, right? So there's a contradiction of we're a close family, we're extended family, but we're close. Bobby's in my extended family, and so is Simran. And we're this really close knit community, but at the same time, we're not, right? So these weird contradictions. Me and Simran are close, but we're not. But then she also says, don't blame my culture for this. Don't paint us all with the same brush. Yeah, don't paint us all with the same brush. Don't blame my culture. But then a lot of what she mentions is like, oh, it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural issue.
Yeah.
My culture kind of imprisons me in that sense.
It's just how we are.
Yeah.
Like on the podcast last night, that's just how we are. That's how, like, and then she'll say something in your language, in her home
Yeah.
language, and give an example. This is what we say. This is
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah.
But I just feel like if it was me, like, you have to, you can't please everybody.
No, you can't.
You have to learn to say no. You can't say yes to everything.
Yeah.
I've got to have my time. I'm 30 something now. I need to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
Whether that is I've got to move out of this house, even if it's just down the road.
Yeah.
Or if it means like I have to meet somebody outside
Yeah.
my culture, my religion. I've just got to go out there, try dating, try maybe not making friends, just try dating.
Dating, try letting somebody know you like them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, like you mentioned, right? The relationship which she had, which was unhealthy for such a long time, was definitely not a good precursor, was definitely not a good setup to her coming into this, I also want to mention that, like, yeah, she is smart. She's doing all right. Yeah, all right enough. Yeah. And that is what also makes this so hard to believe. Like, you're on the ball. You're on the ball now. When she talks about things, she's
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, that shouldn't be happening. This should be this way. This should be that way. It's like, yeah, you're on the ball. You are.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's what makes it kind of hard to believe. Strange in its own sense. But she was goody two shoes, but she was not streetwise at any point. and massively lacked being streetwise. And that is one of the biggest issues and downfalls in this. This is just embarrassing. So Simrat wrote an apology to Kirat, okay? And this was the whole legal issue. So Kirat wanted a public apology, which would be read out in court, which would then be like public record, okay? But Simran wrote a really bad private apology, okay? Which was so like rubbish and vague that in the end, Kirat rewrote the apology
Yeah.
and gave it to Simran to sign if she agreed with it. How mad is that?
Yeah. The first letter was a private one. And
She couldn't show anybody.
Yeah, she
and she
couldn't
still
show
can't.
one. And Kira didn't want that. She wanted a public one. So that's why she didn't accept that one. And then she wrote the second one,
Yeah.
which Simran signed.
Yeah.
Well, she actually... No, Simran wrote a second one, I think.
No, Simran didn't write it.
Oh, did she not write it?
No, Kirat wrote it.
Kira wrote it and then Simran signed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Simran said, well, Kirat said, look, I want to show this to people. I know this is a private apology, but there are people that I need to see this for them to know that this is real and this is what happened and that you are admitting that you did this.
Yeah, so she allowed her 30 people
She allowed her 30 people,
on this list, yeah.
but she had to come up with the 30 names within 24 hours.
Yeah. And some of the people that she wanted to read were like not local people. So.
Abroad and stuff. Yeah. So she just had control all the way through.
Yeah.
That level of control is wild. You know? There was another person who Simran catfished as well. Somebody has come out and said that, yeah, I was catfished by her. We don't have much detail on it. Like,
No.
Kirat hasn't said much as to who that is and what's going on. But yeah, there was somebody else. We've covered the next part. That was about JJ getting catfished. Now this one I like. The handwriting on the card, guys. The handwriting on the card. Now you may have seen this at some point somewhere. It flashes up in the documentary. Bobby sent Kirat some flowers saying, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I'm really sorry. I love you. Or, around them words, basically, right? And, oh my God, show that to any man and say, is that a man's handwriting? Forget that. Show it to any doctor and say, is that a doctor's handwriting? This guy's supposed to be a cardiologist. That's the neatest handwriting I have ever seen. It is so curved. You know the curves in it? Mm. Okay, it's not the neatest I've ever seen.
It's not neat. It's not neat. It looks childlike.
But it looks feminine. Well, yeah.
Childlike. It looks like a kid wrote it and it looks like a girl.
I'm telling you, I've never seen a single guy write like that. I've not seen a single guy write like that.
It's definitely
and I'm not like
written by a girl.
Exaggerating.
If that card is from, fake Bobby or Simran, then yes.
It's a very feminine style of writing.
I would look at that card and be like, no.
I would.
But then again, could he write when he was on the hospital bed?
Okay, now, so did a nurse write it? Is that the argument? A nurse wrote it for me.
But it's just funny. It's funny that we picked it up.
The writing was horrendous. I would know. I'd be like, did you write this?
I'm like in witness protection, but you can send cards and flowers and presents all the way to England.
This was wild, right? Check this out. So, so one of the reasons as to why Kirat wanted the hospital details was because she wanted to send gifts and stuff to the hospital, right? And so Simran was like, no, don't do it, blah, blah, blah. Or like, that's not the hospital. That's the wrong one you've got. Don't send anything there, okay? And then Kirat still sent present, okay? Now, the magic here is when Bobby responded or Bobby wrote back or something, he was able to quote the gift correctly.
Oh.
I know. Now, I don't know if I'm going off on one here and I've been bit by the Kirat bug on this and just leap into conclusions, okay? But how could she have done that? I think Simran rang ahead to the hospital and said, expect this delivery. It's going to come incorrectly. It's already been sent. It's not supposed to go to you. It's gone to the wrong hospital, right? And something.
No
Just
way.
give me a bell or something. Give me an email when it comes.
No.
Send me a picture of it when it comes. That's all I need. It'd be really nice. Gets a picture and she's able to quote it back to Kirat. That's what I think. But I don't know. I think that's very doable. People do that. People are like, yeah, okay, we'll drop you an email when it comes.
That's crazy if that happened. But I think it's more like she stalked her, tracked her down to the Royal Mail post office and then pretended to pick up that parcel, pretend to be Kira and picked up that parcel again. I said, just like, I've forgotten something. I need it back. I feel like that is more of a
Oh yeah, in the same
doable.
town, isn't it?
Yeah, that's more of a doable thing. That's something like I would probably do. It's more feasible.
But they
Instead
ask
of
for ID, don't they?
calling New York.
They ask for ID, innit?
No, I don't think so.
Fair enough.
Maybe ask for receipt, I guess. Maybe it would ask for receipt, actually. But it depends if you know him.
Well, that was something. That was weird,
Yeah, that is weird, though.
isn't it? Okay, now then, handwriting, messaging from her watchment of her face. Why didn't she discuss it with Bobby when they were face to face? We all want to know why they didn't talk face to face. Thing about being drunk, maybe. This next thing I find just interesting to know that it happened. It's a minor detail in a way. There were times when Kirat was happy in her own relationship and stuff and paying attention to her own partner and that. And then she'd get a message from like Bobby and it would be like an argument about his partner, Sanj. And then Sanj would jump in and message Kirat as well about the argument. So they would both message Kirat at the same time and put her in the middle. Just found it interesting. It's an interesting detail to see the kind of things that she was involved with and what would happen on like a regular day almost. She would just be there with a partner, trying to have a normal evening, and then next thing she's getting battered by messages. Apparently what Kirat would do is like go for it as if I'm not getting involved, and she would just put the phone down somewhere, and then when she'd come back there'd be like a load of messages there where there's an argument going on. Just a weird detail. That's basically Simran arguing with herself. This next one's interesting. It's from the Times radio interview, okay, on YouTube. You'll see it. And basically the interviewer mentions, didn't you think that this was a lot that was happening to one person? And Kirat comes back and says, well, he had his family around, so I wasn't really bothered. So I'm like, wait a minute, you weren't really bothered? Why are you crying your eyes out if you weren't bothered?
Yeah,
Okay.
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And then she carries on and she says, I was more concerned for my Simran, who was there and getting tangled in and getting involved in something which she shouldn't be involved in as she's young. So this is where, like, he's in New York getting medical attention, right? And the interviewer's like, weren't you worried? Weren't you, there's a lot going on. Didn't you think this is a bit weird? And she was like, no, I didn't really think it was weird. Instead, I was just concerned about Simran. Because Simran's a bit young, why is she getting involved in this? I was like, wait a minute. You're not attached to any of this. Why are you getting involved in it? You were able to care about Simran, but you weren't able to, like, look at it yourself. what can you say? They're all saying that, like, you can't see it from the inside. From the outside, you can see how crazy it was, but from the inside, you can't see a thing. That's what they're saying. Yeah, so I've covered that one. Covered that one. Quick point here, which I've covered earlier, but it's slightly differently how it's mentioned over here. Kirat thought that she was verifying who was who and what was going on with people she knew in real life too. But that was Simran. So there's other profiles which she thought were real people. Yeah. But it turns out they were Simran. It's clear that Kira is not in touch with any family or friends. She has no one's number and visits no one and gets no visits. And Simran is very confident about that. Anyway, I've covered that earlier. I picked up on a contradiction here. This was the Brit Asia video. There's other points which we've already covered, but this one was a contradiction. It's where she says she's still my sister, talking about Simran, after correcting the interviewer that she's not my first cousin. So the interviewer had said, you got like hustled by your first cousin. Then she goes, no, she's not my first cousin. And then goes on to say she's my little sister. Like, what are you on about? Why are you... She seemed to be offended by the interviewer saying that, this is your first cousin. And so she went to say that, no, she's not that close. My first cousins are close to me, not that close. But then by the end of her speech, she's my sister.
Yeah, she's a second cousin, but then she likes to regard her as a little sister as well.
Yeah, and in that same statement, she used the words, I'm not close to her. Now, another video, I don't have the name of it. This guy appeared to be some kind of like doctor, psychologist. I don't know if he exactly was or was not, but he kind of appeared that way. And I think his channel was posited that way too. He makes a very interesting observation. And that is the way Kirat talks about Bobby. And I'm going to have to remember to mention that in a second. Talks about Bobby. The way she does that, right, suggests that she's got fond memories of this relationship really taking place. This was real, very much real, right? And if Bobby had died, she would have looked back on him as the love of her life. She would have looked at this relationship as one to tell the ages. This would have been the same as Jada and Tupac. Like, she hasn't stopped talking about Tupac from like the 70s. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Nobody would have measured up to Bobby, ever. And that makes sense to me. She was so in love with him. He was the love of her life. And he kind of still is. He really still is. Now that brings me on to how she talks about Bobby. We're all finding it weird. How she speaks about Bobby in the interviews is strange. In her own words, she says, the reason why I speak about Bobby the way I do is because when all this happened to me, that was the real Bobby. That was really him. So, and she's like, yeah, I want people to see how when it happened, this was all real. But it's like, okay, but we now know that it wasn't real, so come on.
Yeah.
This will probably help you yourself if you start saying things like Simran did it or fake Bobby did it, however you want to posit this, Mm-hmm. But she's still very comfortable, it appears, saying Bobby did this for me, Bobby did that for me, Bobby supports me like this, Bobby did this, Bobby did that.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's worrying.
It's unsettling.
Yeah.
A bit scary.
She hasn't moved on, and I think, and it shows.
Does she want to move on?
She finds it hard to move on. She says she is, I think. But
When she was really in love with
Yeah.
him, were they not some of her best memories in recent memory?
I guess it's hard for her to erase, all those years of memories with Bobby.
Those feelings were real.
Those emotions, it's hard, isn't it?
It's wild, isn't it?
It was real. For her, it was real.
With the podcast, which is with Indy and Doctor
Yeah.
and Indy.
Indian Doctor podcast.
I know, but when you say Indian Doctor,
Indy and Doctor.
I know. So you've got to say it slowly, otherwise it's Indian Doctor. That podcast, she mentions that she's disappointed. Basically, they say to her, I mean, this will have affected Bobby, innit? And she goes, yeah. And they go, it's a shame that he didn't help you with this.
Are you disappointed?
And she goes,
Yes.
yeah. She goes, yeah, yeah, he hasn't helped. And to be honest, I'm disappointed.
But Bobby has an ongoing case himself, doesn't he?
There you go, guys.
So
News for you.
he just needs to, he's got a case. Obviously, he's got an issue with Simran, fraud identity going on. So that's his case. That's, that's ongoing apparently. So that's all he needs to deal with.
Yes.
So, from his point of view, I've done my bit. What else do I need to do?
Just to nail that in there, Bobby has an active case, an active claim against Simran. And this is for impersonating him, breaching his data and privacy. The case is ongoing. So that is still happening. That could have an interesting ending. There could be more to this. This could be interesting. I mean, he's a dentist. I'm sure he has powerful lawyers, hopefully. So this could be an interesting one. But it's like, I'm sure that Bobby has a degree of concern around his own safety and stuff, maybe around Kirat.
They asked her, "Are you disappointed?" And she said, "I can't lie. I am. Yeah, I'm disappointed
Yeah.
that he's not helped much."
Yeah. And it's just like, can we expect him to help? Like, really? I'm sure he's got his own concerns. I mean, would she have feelings for him if they were in the same place?
Well, I don't understand what she wants him to do though. Do you know what I mean? Like he's already helped, I think.
I feel like she wants him to be like beside her helping.
Yeah.
Like be beside her in these
Go
interviews.
to these meetings.
Yeah.
Go meet the lawyers. Go and push these.
Yeah. Go to places and fight this with me, because for as long as I was in this, you were in this. But it's like, well, yes and no, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think she wants him to be a bit of an activist with her.
Yeah.
But I can clearly see why he is not,
Yeah, he wants this out of his life. He's
Yeah.
like, look, this has come to my door. I don't want to deal with this. It's come to my door, like, but I'm going to deal with it as efficiently as I can, and it'll be gone.
To be honest, I'm a bit surprised that is his actual face on the Netflix show.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised. I didn't think he would. I thought he would be, a bit private. I didn't think he was actually going to be on the show.
Yeah.
So
And
that's already like
enough.
helping her, I think.
That's a lot of help, yeah. One thing I noticed was it appears that they were not in the same scenes at the same time.
Yeah.
Or the same shots at the same time. When you see Bobby, you don't really see Kirat. When you see Kirat, you don't really see Bobby or Sanj. They were kept like apart in production. You can kind of see that. In fact, Kirat has said, I've never seen him since
that day, yeah.
the day she knocked on his door.
She knocked, yeah.
They've never met since. And have I written this down? Because this is absolutely mind-blowing. I've got to make sure I wrote this down. The phone number. Okay, I don't think I've written this down. Oh no, I have. I've got it. We're going to talk about the phone number in a minute, because that is mental.
I mean, he's a married man at the end of the day. He's got kids. So of course he would want to, keep a line from it. Like, why would he want to stay in contact
I know.
with her?
I know.
Like, you've got to cut it. You've got to cut this relationship off now.
Yeah.
Like go through it. Heartbreak. Grief.
Accept it.
Accept it. Move on. I'm not going to stay in your life.
Yeah.
You've got to let it go.
Yeah. Let it go, grow, develop, move on from it. Definitely. Yeah.
I think if he was in her life, I don't think she would move on.
No, she wouldn't move on.
She
wouldn't
would
move on.
keep this relationship going forever and ever.
Yeah. But yeah, you can't expect Bobby to be doing stuff like just let him do his thing and move on. Honestly, you got separate lives. Who you were in love with was not the real Bobby, as much as it may have been nice to have been involved with him.
And there, at that point when we watched that podcast, that answer just kind of showed us, a glimpse of, she can be, smart, she can be logical, intelligent, but then when she answered that question like that, I thought, if you can't see how Bobby wouldn't want to be in contact with you, then there's something a bit wrong there.
And you know what? I've got to say, for a second, I saw heartbreak again.
Yeah.
I did in that second when she says, disappointed. I was like,
yeah, she visibly looked disappointed. She was saddened. So yeah, again, like it's like you see a little child in her.
do you think that she has separated the real Bobby from the fake Bobby? Because
I think she struggles to.
I think so too. I mean, as much as I also think that, in my opinion, that she knew this was a lie. She's too smart. She knew this was a lie.
Yeah.
She was going along with a fantasy for a long time. Okay. As much as I have that perspective, as much as I think that she wanted this fantasy to be real and she engaged in it, I feel like when it comes to the real Bobby, she's like...
I think she knows it was all fake, but she also wants to live in that fantasy life.
She did. She does.
So she tries, like, it's like she wants to relive it. Like, that's why I feel like she's not really moving on.
Yeah. But
she's keeping the story alive. She's going on these podcasts and these interviews and things. And
do you
know what I mean?
The thing about the real Bobby is that he could make all this fantasy real. You know what I mean? And can you imagine that situation?
Yeah. So that is why he's keeping away from her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if she can't understand that, I think, someone needs to tell her this is not healthy. You can't think like that. And it's better for her, get that name out your head.
We were saying that she should just go abroad.
Yep.
Go abroad, get yourself a new life.
I mean, I don't...
Make all new contacts.
I don't know why she's still in the same house.
Yeah, get out there. Get out there. Go and see the world.
Yeah.
Come back fresh. Go places where no one knows your name and go and take charge of things,
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, just
again,
new life.
She's stuck in that rut. She's stuck in that routine, her family's there, her job is there, and she knows that area well, she knows the place well, so she should, it would be so much healthier for her if she just moved city or moved country, just do a year somewhere, get a new job, meet some new people, date. If it doesn't work out, you can always come back, but I don't know how she can stay in that house, the same room, the same house where she used to message Bobby and stay up all night with him on the phone.
Yeah. I mean, even the same radio station office, like, I hope it's a different room or something.
Yeah.
But, like, if that's the same desk and the same seat, basically, where you were messaging Bobby, like, you gotta just change that.
That's what I mean by, like, I feel like she's not really wanting to let go. She still wants to live in that
nostalgic life. And that. Yeah.
That fake life. fake
Yeah.
relationship life.
Yeah. And maybe there's something in receiving these calls that are still coming through. Okay, we'll shuffle on a bit. Simran was head girl and often called clever. In those times when Kira was working at the school, once a year on projects, Kira would actually work at the school, right? And on those times when she would be there, Kira would claim Simran as my clever cousin. The school would often say that, like, oh, Simran, she's so clever. Simran, she's head girl. She's going in this direction. She's doing really well. And in those times, when Kira would appear at the school, again, once a year, like, and she would even say it, like, these were like the only times that she was seeing Simran at this point. Like, we're not close, apparently. So I'd see her like once a year when I'm doing a project at the school. And I'd see her and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's my clever cousin. And she'd claim her like in those times. But I'm like, that's when she was messaging you and ringing you and stuff. How wild is that? She would see her at school. Sometimes I'm just like, I find it straight. I find those interactions weird. All of those interactions when they're interacting and one knows and one's oblivious. Apparently.
When she was asked about intimacy and she like got offended and said, is that an appropriate question to ask? Kind of thing. And shut it off.
Yeah.
Like, not only does it look sus, but like, can you not see why that is a valid question to ask?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, they might have cut it because I would have answered back, it's actually a valid question, because the viewers at this point, don't forget, like, the viewers they didn't understand, they didn't know like why this person, well, we didn't know Simran at the time, we didn't know what the purpose was for catfishing her. Was it for money? Because I, all the way through that show, I was thinking it was for money.
Yeah.
And then, so if it's not for money, so were they blackmailing blackmailing you with something? Did they have some pictures, some private things?
Yeah.
So it's a very valid question, from the interviewer.
Yes.
And she obviously got offended, and she behaved a bit erratic, I think.
Yeah, that was actually really weird. I remember mentioning at the time when we were watching
She
it.
could have just said no. You would expect it, maybe, in whatever years they were romantically involved, but luckily for me, fortunately for me, nothing of that sort happened.
Yeah.
There was no, intimacy and sexual talk over the phone or anything like that. So that's it. Close it down. Done.
But instead, it was, is that an appropriate question to ask?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
Because that question is valid, and it was important, because that, if it was yes, it would make Simran more of a monster.
It would
paint a better picture, like, oh my god, how sick is that?
Yeah, it would raise many more questions as well.
So if the answer was yes and she's not answering, and so she's like, well, she's protecting herself maybe, but she's protecting Simran there as well.
Yeah. But like, how it was handled is mad. Like, you don't say, is that an appropriate question to ask? And the reason why you don't say that is because it's an interview. You're
on a Netflix documentary.
Yes, you are basically the subject.
Yeah.
It's a romantic relationship, whether or not it was romantic at the start or towards the final 10 minutes. It's a romantic, intimate relationship.
She could have just said no, though. That's why I think it's sus. Like, you could have just said nope. There wasn't.
Yeah, but the answer was given in a way of like, appropriate or not. As if this conversation is descending into inappropriate talk.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm just asking you a question. I'm an interviewer. And I'm asking you a question at the end.
Yeah.
And then basically, Kira expands on this. She expands on this in the interview with Doctor and Indy, okay? And she says, her actual words are like, well, it's none of your business. And it's like, wait a minute.
And I think they agreed.
They did, they agreed.
They agreed with her too.
They were like, well done for shooting them down. But it's like, wait a minute. None of this is any of our business. None of this is anyone else's business but yours, Simran's, and Bobby's, and whoever else, a few people who had profiles and stuff. It's no one's business. So, like, how are you using it for that question but not the other questions?
Yeah, if you're going to do an expose, then, like, expose it all, you know?
And just, it's an interview, answer the question. That was a strange response. Okay, got a bit more information here because I made a note about when Kirat bumped into that family member. Okay. Apparently, Kirat bumped into his family member and they said it could be possible that Bobby and wife are not together. We've not seen them together in ages. And then Kirat rang Bobby and the family member didn't question the weird voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she rang Bobby in front of that auntie.
Yeah.
That was strange.
And the auntie didn't question the weird voice. Are you sure that was his auntie?
Oh my God.
Can we verify who this person was, please? This could be somebody like proper, massively
Like
extended.
her auntie on the Confessions in the Netflix show. Was it auntie or mum? Oh, no, it might have been a mum, actually.
I think it was her mum.
I think it was her mum. Even mentioned that his voice was strange. You know, a bit high-pitched.
Yes.
And quiet, high-pitched, because obviously it was a girl.
Yeah.
But if the mum, who's never, you know, spoken to me before and thinks that's a strange voice, then surely the auntie who is, you know, related or knows Bobby would recognise and would also say, you sound a bit strange, Bobby.
Yeah.
Wouldn't she?
Sound a bit weird, Bobby. Not seen you in a while, Bobby. But yeah, that's that interaction. Yeah, it's all weird.
But I guess she could argue, oh yeah, he's damaged his vocals, and do you know what I mean? It's just all very messy and weird and
Damaged his
too many
vocals, and I've not
questions.
seen him in ages, so it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And let's take a little break for this point coming up, guys. Don't know if you know about this, but you're about to love it. She recorded a full Harry Potter book for him. She sat there and read a full Harry Potter book for him. She still hadn't seen him on a video or photograph, but she's got his shirt for some reason. I get your shirt, but I get no picture of you or a video call or voice note. But I'm going to sit here and audio read a full Harry... Have you ever read a full Harry Potter book? It's better than Lord of the Rings because they're horrendous. I wish you read one of those. But a full Harry Potter book she read for the guy.
I know. She's better than me. I would never.
That's a best friend. That's a best friend ever. That's a best friend ever, 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 ever. I ain't got no friends who'll ever that for me. I'm not going to get over that. I'm not going to get over it. I want to hear the book. Get it on Audible. Somebody put it on Audible. In fact, no, I'd give it for free somewhere, somehow. I want that book because that's just mental. Maybe at page 100. I think this is a bit weird. I've still not got a picture or video at page 100.
Comments were like, you know, audiobooks exist.
Oh my God. I can't believe it. I wish that she had given him an audiobook read by some other woman and passed it off as herself.
Herself, yeah.
I can't believe that. Anyway, we're back. Okay, this is it. The phone number. Guys, the phone number situation. Oh my god. Guys, Kira had come so close to the real Bobby, right? Once in the club, once when she knocked on his door, right? And like the wife and that lot were there, okay? Now, in that second interaction, she got one of the biggest gifts of her entire life. The real Bobby gave Kira his phone number, right? She's got the phone number, it's in her phone, everything's good, okay? Now, Bobby has said that he's going to call the police because he's freaked out. The real Bobby has said that, okay? So, from there, Kira has kind of got a little bit insulted. She's like, what do you mean calling the police? Like, they're going to call the police on me. What do they think of me? Like, well, if they're going to call the police on me and log it, I'm going to go to the police and I'm going to log it myself too. Now, she goes to the police station with Simran. And they go down there and they log the situation. This is the next day. They go down there and they log the situation, right? Bear in mind, that same evening after she's been to Bobby's real house and met real Bobby, fake Bobby is messaging her saying, oh my god, you've seen everything. It's all over. You've seen the truth. I really am living with my wife. I'm going to come back to that if I remember. Let's go and skip to the police station. It's the next day after she's knocked on the door and met real Bobby. They're at the police station, and that is Kira and Simran. They're there. And they're giving this log of what's happened, just so it's all on file or whatever, right? Now then, for a split second, somehow, during that interaction, Simran gets Kira's phone. And she deletes the real Bobby's phone number from Kirat's phone. Kirat had the real Bobby's number for 24 whole hours. And that's it. And don't forget, she hasn't met Bobby since. So she's got no contact number, no nothing of the real Bobby. She had it. Kirat deleted it. That blows my mind. It's just stunning. Other thing that blows my mind is what I was going to come back to. Now, when she was face to face with real Bobby, fake Bobby rang her, right? Fake Bobby rang her. She's face to face with real Bobby. She doesn't discuss it, or I don't know, did she even answer the call from fake Bobby? I think she missed it. When she goes home that evening after seeing real Bobby face to face, she's getting messages from fake Bobby in it, like, oh, you've seen it, this is the truth now, you've seen me with my wife and stuff and all this. Now, she's responding to fake Bobby and swearing at him and screaming at him and stuff. She's got real Bobby's number. Why didn't she just use real Bobby's number there and then and say, is this you messaging me? Just want to make sure this is fake or real. Is it you messaging me, real Bobby? Just so I know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Weird, isn't it?
Mm.
Anyway, that's mad when she's got the real number. And then, within 24 hours, maybe conveniently, she loses real Bobby's number. Does she want the fantasy to carry on? This sounds like evidence towards that. That's the phone number thing. Okay, that's fine. Right. This is magnificent. In a podcast, Kirat mentions that she had the vague area of where the wife, Sanj, was. Okay. So she says that she had that vague area. Now, sometimes what she would do is she would speak to Simran and say, I'm going to go and find her. I'm going to go and knock on a door and stuff. And she would apparently you just drive around in circles in a certain area trying to find her, right? And then she mentions, I'm pretty sure, she mentions this on the Doctor and Indy podcast, right? That one day she was just driving and she didn't even realize that she had got to that area, apparently. And she just parked up in that area and she was only there for a little bit, not long, maybe an hour, 20 minutes, who knows, right? But not long. But in that short space of time, Sanj walks past. And of course, in the conversation, we're being convinced to believe that that was all by chance and that was all an accident, right? But the podcaster, one of them, Doctor or Sanj, one of them, Doctor or Indy, comes out and says, "Oh yeah, it was always by chance, but like it looked like you were stalking her." And then Kirat quickly moves on because it's like, "Ooh, don't say that word." It was wild. And I don't know, what do we believe, guys? Do we believe that like she was just driving around in a certain area? Is that what she was doing?
No.
Ain't it? Yeah, I don't really know if I believe that, to be honest with you. Like, I reckon if she had that address and she's so fixated, and maybe it's safer for her to bump into Sanj than it is to bump into Bobby, in a way. I don't know. But yeah, that was strange. Okay, I'm at the bottom of my list now. I've got no more scrolling, so I've got a few more points here, and that's the end of it. We've covered this one, so I'm not going to mention that. Forget that one. I'll cover it now.
We've covered all that, haven't we?
Just 1 second, yeah. We've covered this one, and that is that the real Bobby's a dentist, his wife's a pharmacist, and they got kids. The end. Let me just check the rest. Okay, right. So Simran said, well, Kirat said, "Why didn't you stop?" Right, to Simran. "Why didn't you stop? Why didn't you end this?" And Simran's response was, "I did try to stop. I was treating you so badly in the hope that you would break up with me. That was the plan." And isn't it mental?
Simran said that.
Yeah.
Oh, can't remember.
Yes. Well, this is from Kirat. This information is from Kirat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Kirat said that Simran advised that, like, I was trying to break up with you and I was doing that by treating you so bad. But you didn't go anywhere. You carried on. How wild is that?
Messy.
Like, treating her so badly to try and break up with her.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, "Nah, I'm staying." So
Yeah.
that's wild, isn't it? That's so like toxic for yourself to be accepting such.
There's so many
treatment.
layers to it, but
There are, yeah.
of course that toxic relationship, that 10-year on and off one,
Yeah, didn't help.
didn't help.
Didn't
and
help.
like
The pressures don't help.
I feel like that has, put her into that, that mentality already, that
Not letting go.
the abused.
Yeah, and not knowing the end. That guy mentions it in it about the battered woman syndrome. And he didn't actually expand on it. Some other guy was talking about this, and it's probably that. But yeah, it's like, on and off relationships. On and off relationships, in my opinion, guys, are extremely bad for you. You don't know where the end is. You don't know when it's over. And I think that can ruin your definition of what an end is, what a finish is. So just stay away from those kinds of things if you can. This one blows my mind, guys, and this kind of may explain why some family members may not have fought too hard against Simran, okay?
Because she was hiding information from them.
Go on.
So, like, for example, you know how Bobby or Simran would promise Kira that he would be coming to see her in England.
Yep.
And he'd keep breaking those promises. So one occasion, or maybe more than one, I
Multiple
don't know.
occasions, I believe, yeah.
She couldn't face telling her parents that Bobby wasn't meeting her, wasn't here to meet her. So she would tell them that she is meeting Bobby, but really she's just in a car driving round and round.
That's mad, isn't it? She's just driving round and round, and at that time her parents believe that she's meeting Bobby. So that would have to mean that when she's gone back to her family, she's got a story of how it went,
Yeah.
or what they did.
Yeah.
That is that's probably like perpetuating
Yeah.
the whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
What can you say about that? It's just so wild. That really puts like a massive tilt on the whole thing.
So imagine when she found out from Simran that it was all her, and she had to take all that in, which is a lot to digest, and like all that pain she's going through, and then she has to face her parents or family or extended aunties or whatever and cousins the truth too. She has to tell them the truth that I've never met Bobby.
I actually didn't meet him, no.
Not once. That was all a lie.
Yeah, that was me lying.
That was me lying. But that bit was Simran lying.
Yeah.
And I also lied at this bit. But this bit happened. But the rest was Simran. It's so messy.
It's extremely messy.
And then that brings us to, you know, Kirat's dad, who, you know, was in denial.
Yeah.
That was hard to watch. That was not watch, but hard to hear on that last episode, I believe, from that podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Basically, what it looks like, I mean, what he says is he makes broad, sweeping statements. I know that he means well. We know that he means well. He's definitely hurt as well, right? He doesn't want to go into all of the details. He doesn't want to really know what happened. He's like, I know something bad has happened. I know it's between you two. I know it's major. I know it's really affected you in your life. I don't really want to know much more as to what's happened.
Yeah.
And that's quite unhealthy, quite hurtful.
Yeah.
I mean, be there for your daughter, first thing. There's that.
He also seemed like he was more upset because of, you know, the damage it's done between the two families, because they were close to the granddad, Simran's granddad.
Yeah.
Or their granddad, I don't know. The granddad, anyway.
Yeah.
He seemed more, you know, bothered about that than, you know, the damage it's done to his own daughter.
Yeah, like, really what I'm seeing when he answers, I'm seeing the politics in his answer. I'm seeing the family politics in his answer. Yeah. That's what it's fueled by. He's like, you know, the granddad is a good person and I feel bad for everyone. When he should just stick up for his daughter and just make it clear that he's there for his daughter.
Yeah.
Other family will take care of their daughter and their family members. You just prioritise your own.
Yeah.
Because nobody else will be putting your family before theirs. So you put your own family first. You know what I mean?
Because that clearly hurt her.
Yeah.
Hurt Kirat.
It's hurting. The sad thing is it's hurting Kirat and it's hurting him. Yeah, the father. It's hurting the mother. You know, you've got to make people feel better where you can. And if you can make your daughter feel better, you do it. You know, show her that you're there for her. She needs that strong relationship. She really needs it. Okay, so a note I have here. Anything else on that one? A note I've got here on grooming. Basically, I think it was as part of the court case. There was an argument that, well, maybe, Kirat, there's an argument here for grooming, and that you were grooming Simran. And like, I know that like Kirat was like appalled by that idea and shocked by that idea. And of course, I think we all find it the same way, shocking and appalling. But yeah, we were just talking about it a second ago, and it's like, what did you say? Like, why would she do that type thing?
Yeah, I think it was just a bullying tactic from Simran's lawyers,
Yeah.
to because
It
you can't
definitely
really
is.
prove it, so it was more of a case to scare her off. But yeah, of course, Kira found it offensive and disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of them. It's like, what they're doing is, them lawyers, they're going down the road of, well, maybe you knew this was Simran.
Yeah,
Maybe you knew this was, you didn't verify who this is. So you've got to operate under the
illusion.
under the pretense or the possibility that this is a minor, because you haven't confirmed. How have you confirmed this is not a minor? You know what I mean? So you could be grooming. You've got to confirm these things. These are the things, isn't it? These are the things that people do in like relationships and that. Basic. But of course, she thought he was a fully grown adult, so why would she ask for ID and stuff in it, really? You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? But yeah, that was mentioned. Now, which I almost forgot, and I made a note of during this video, the picture verification. So, the verification of Simran's picture. So, a picture of Simran is going around on social media, as we all know, all right. A few of them are, it's like 4 or 5 or something, right? Now, like I seen them on TikTok, that's what you saw. Now, we can't really always go around believing TikTok and stuff, and, you never know when you're going to get catfished for 9 years. But basically, we've been able to verify that the picture that you're kind of seeing of Simran around is real. It appears on the Vice documentary about this case. So if you
From 2 years ago.
Yeah, from 2 years ago, yeah. So if you find the one from Vice about this whole thing, on there you will see the same picture, which is going around on social media, of Simran. So there you go.
Yeah, it is an old picture though, so...
If you can find new ones. No, I'm joking. Barclays Bank, I'm looking at you. No, I'm joking. I'm not. That's basically it, I believe.
Yeah.
Finally got to the end of it. I can now stop thinking about this case. No, I can't. And stop watching the media and stop discussing this outside of the last video, which is yet to be made. I won't say too much about it. But yeah, I'm going to make another video, and it's going to be a different take on this. This one has been a long one, my longest video yet, so like, sorry not sorry kind of thing. It's just one of those topics that there is just so much to talk about, like so much has happened, and it's very much a topic of our times. Like, this is very now. The technology that's available today is basically what allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, and there's things like Kira is very much on a lot of different media outlets, like doing interviews, creating awareness about this. For me, one of the massive things is that, like, she is strong and she's in a healthy place, and that is the biggest win out of all of it. But as more detail comes out, you just can't help but analyse it, because Kira is intelligent and strong. And so it's like, how could this happen? And so there's that need to just want to analyse this and go into more detail is just what has fueled and spurred this video on. And as we go along, I'm watching and seeing more videos that are coming out, and it's either raising more questions or answering others and giving perspective. Some things that have come out have given perspective, like how she finds a partner. It's a process that does take a long time, and is very friendly and stuff, and so is at your every beck and call and things like that, to her own detriment, unfortunately. And her character being very goody two-shoes and things. So there are things that come out which do justify or paint a better or clearer picture as to how this happened.
It's also interesting to see how others find their approach in interviewing her on these interviews and podcasts. isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to expand?
All right, then I'll expand. So, like, it's where you'll get interviewers who take one of two positions, or even, in fact, there's quite a few positions which they actually are taking. Some,
Like Indian Doctor.
go ahead.
Indie and a Doctor's podcast with her that was uploaded, and it was a very long one. So they were quite soft, like friends having a chat. She was laughing, smiling. She was happy, and actually, it was the first time I've seen her like laughing.
She was having a laugh.
So
She was
much.
happy.
She was comfortable around them. So it was easier to watch, but at the same time, also hard to watch, because when she was smiling and being happy, talking about Bobby, it made me feel like she's, do you know what I mean? Like she's
still there.
She's still there, yeah. She's holding on to it a bit too much.
Yeah, my issue with that conversation, that podcast, it's a great podcast still, but my issue with that is these are the conversations she's always been having.
Yeah.
These are the conversations which have not constructively criticised her and not burst her out of that bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the ones that have allowed it to carry on. You know what I mean? These are the ones where it's like, stop, snap out of it. Let's get you somewhere better and healthier. Let's get you stronger. Let's work on this together. But the first thing we've got to do to work on that is let's help you understand what has happened here and really get you out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like that's... Anyway, that's one position.
That was their approach. And then we saw one today. Can't remember the names.
That wasn't really an interview. It was more a podcast between two guys.
Yeah. Podcast between two guys. And they were, dissecting it, analysing it and talking about this story. And they were like opposite ends, weren't they?
Yeah,
almost arguing.
Yeah, one was opinionated and more mass opinion, like a lot of people are showing.
Yeah.
How could this happen? This is extremely rare and unusual case. And the other guy was more like...
No, this
PC.
happens a lot.
Yeah, this is common.
It's
It happens
really
to a lot
common.
of people. You'd be surprised at how many people this happens to.
Yeah.
The other guy was like, we're on about 9 years, this happens to nobody.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. And then you get the interviewers who are like just very serious. It's a very tragic situation and really getting, just not saying much at all,
Letting
but
her
getting
do
all the information out of
Yeah.
out of Kirat. So yeah, do you
Yeah.
think Simran will ever speak Piers Morgan one day?
No. She would never. I don't think she could.
Maybe Bobby's gonna go on Piers Morgan. Or on mine. Come to my podcast. Come along, guys. You're welcome. But yeah. So yeah, that's what's made this so interesting, and that's why I suppose this video is so long. It's just one of them topics which has really grasped the nation to an extent. A lot of people are talking about it and are aware of it, and it's
And who
just been a
knows,
big one.
maybe, like one day through this case, some catfishing laws may come to light.
I don't think it'll ever happen. Never going to happen. It's never going to happen. No, it's not. It's not. There are reasons why this is not ever going to change. I mean, tackle the dark web first.
Yeah.
Dark web, you can do whatever you want on there. Do you know what I mean? So, nah, they're not going to regulate the internet. The internet kind of has to stay the way it is. The internet will be the Wild West for about 100 years yet, easy. And now there's AI involved. Mm-hmm. So it's gone mad. This catfishing stuff is about to go on steroids. That's what's going to happen here. And they are not going to regulate it.
These deep fakes and stuff.
Deep fakes.
Scary.
In fact,
Frightening.
she could have made deep fakes. Simran could have made deep... anyone can do that. Simran could have made deep fakes easy. In fact, she could have photoshopped. Why was she photoshopping? Let's take some credit back at this point, guys. You know what I mean? Anyway, people are saying things like there's space for AI in all of this. Like, people could have a relationship where it's literally just text messages, and that's basically AI. And I was thinking about AI when it came to Baby Reindeer. In fact, I was thinking about AI with this as well, but Baby Reindeer, I was like, Martha was sending a million messages. All she needed was to send them to an AI, which would have responded to her, and she could have had a healthy life. Do you know what I mean? All you got to do is press a button and switch an AI on to respond to her, and she'd be happy. And I reckon Kirat would have been happy with that. If the AI said the right things, she might have never knocked on that door. You know? Anyway, guys, again, an extremely interesting one, and it may well get even more interesting with more information that trickles out of this as things go on, because information and detail is trickling out and coming out very slowly, but it is happening. So we might find some more interesting details from this. It's one of them that keeps us interested because Kirat is intelligent, you know, she is successful in her own way. So how could this happen to somebody who is smart in that sense? And for such a long time, the time is a massive elephant in the room all the way through. But anyway, we won't talk it any further. I'll thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy. See you later.
Bye.